Hi, welcome back to Flint's Collectibles. Today we're going to do a full read-through and review of Gideon Falls Book 2. But before we do that, go down below, and if you liked the video, like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a video. And before we dive into this, if you have not read Book 1 or have not watched the video, I highly recommend you go do that first. So let's go ahead and dig in. Alright, so here is the front of the book. It's got like a nice like matte finish on the black, and then like the red lines here are all in like gloss. And here's the spine, just like the other one, just has the book 2 on it. Gideon Falls. And here's the back of the book of the black barn. And again, this is all matte, and the black barn is in like a glossy look. And then the cover price is $39.99. So let's go ahead and dig in. Alright, so here's a nice matte cover entry page. Gideon Falls, the Eater of All Things. Deluxe Edition Book 2 by Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino. Hopefully I pronounced that right. So I love these covers, by the way. They're like a puzzle, and then it's got like something behind the image, really cool looking. But we start out where book 1 ended, with Danny / Norton's dad. That's him. And then here's his sister, and they're talking to their dad, and he's in like this place where this creature from the black barn is taking him over, but he's trying to fight it. And then this is him and the creature fighting. Cool double page spread. And then they're just having like a battle in his mind. And while that's going on, the pasture is where Danny used to be, and he's looking at his room with all these black barn pieces, and he's starting to have flashbacks of like what happened to him and his experiences with black barn. And then somebody comes and takes him. Then we go back to Danny and her talking, and he's having like a sense. He like feels something, and it ends up being a nail from the black barn. And then here's the pasture again. He got taken, and they're saying, no, we're trying to help you and make sure you're all right. And then he meets up with the bishop of the church. He takes him to this machine and starts talking about that. And while that's going on, then Danny and his sister are walking in on their dad, who killed this guy. And he's like, I didn't mean to, something took me over. And then we go to issue 18, and it's him trying to explain himself, and the cops show up, and just this big ordeal with that. And then we go back to the pasture, and the bishop talking about this machine and what it does, and how there's like a center point to all these different timelines and different stuff like that. And then we go back to Danny and his dad talking, and then they're watching the footage of what actually happened. It's actually the nurse who killed the guy, not him. And then we see the nurse has like the red eyes because she's been taken over, and then she takes over somebody else because they're about to find out what she did. So then you see all these cockroaches going into this guy's mouth. That's how the creature takes him over. And she's got bloody hands, and she's like, I don't know what happened. And then he's just walking away, driving away just like nothing happened, because he's been taken over. And then the pastor and bishop are talking still, and then they experience this crazy situation. And then we go back to Danny and his dad escape the hospital. And then issue 19 is this guy that got taken over from the hospital. He's now at a diner, and he says, I'm so hungry. And then Danny and his dad are trying to escape the police. They're trying to find out where he went. So they end up going to this place where this group of people that his dad has, trying to figure out what the black barn is and what's going on with it. So then they're all talking about different stuff that's happened. And then now we're back to the pastor and her talking, and he's having like an experience with this black barn, and now they're in like this crazy looking wooded area, and then there's this creature looking thing coming out of the ground, and they're trying to escape it. And then these people are talking back and forth about, with Danny and his dad, about different theories on the situation and how they need to stop it. And this one guy's ready to just go out and stop it right now. And then this guy at the diner says, "I was hungry." And all these people are killed. We'll go to issue 20. And this pasture. They're in the woods because they ran away from that creature. And then he ends up seeing a reflection in the water of the red eyes, and the water has arms come out of it, and it tries to take her in. But he's able to save her, and then they keep hearing all these noises, and that's what the critch, critch, critch noise all over the thing. And then they see this big old cockroach running at them, so they try to escape. And we go back to the guy at the diner and how he's getting arrested because they think he killed these people, but he didn't realize he's actually taken over. And then Danny and his dad are trying to figure out what to do next on their side. While that's going on, the pasture's trying to escape, and there's arrows starting to fly. And now here's this tribe of people and saying, "Get down, we're here to help you." And they'll have like the mask on, which I think is because they're trying not to be taken over by the creature. And then they take them back, and they're saying, "We've been waiting for you. Are you ready to die?" And she's like, "What?" So we go to issue 21. And this starts out with this person taking over, and they're in like the mall, and they're just murdering all these people. What's going on? Then we go back to the tribe people, and then how they have a machine, just like the pasture saw from the bishop. And then the head lady of this place gets taken out by this creature, and then they start having this fight. And then he starts taking over other people. So now this guy is taking over the police officer. And then he's aiming his gun at her. And then Danny and his dad are there now. So now they're trying to fight this thing, and this machine's taking off. They need to stop it and turn it off. And then they go back to the black barn once Danny. So he's like, "Why me? Like, out of everybody on Earth?" And then this guy just blows his head off, but then he's partially got his head taken off, and he's still attacking all these people. So they have a huge fight, and then starts coming out of this giant cockroach looking thing. Then they have this big fight with all of them. So they keep fighting, and then they end up blowing up the black barn from that spot. And then all this just trippy looking artwork, this double page spread happens, which is really cool looking. So it's like the different parallels, and this is like the center point of everything. And then we go to issue 22. This is what happens after they destroy the black barn, and they're in like this futuristic world where these robots, and they can't be out so late, and there's all these guards to make sure they're not out too late, and they're having flashbacks of the barn. And then the other people are out in the middle of nowhere, and they end up coming across this guy who hung himself, and all these people dead, and trying to figure out what's going on. And this guy says, "Howdy." And then now the pastor's trying to figure out where he is and what happened, because he just kind of got dropped out of where he was. And then he's trying to find like a church, and this guy's saying, "You gotta have credits to go here." And then he's asking this girl that he met, "How do you get more credits?" And then she's starting to tell him. Then he's trying to find out how to get some money. And then they're seeing this big building just blown up and destroyed. But while that's going on, it's kind of falling into different timelines. It's pretty cool. And then here's the bishop. So he's in the future now. Issue 23. Flying cars. And then he keeps having these flashbacks of the black barn being blown up, and he's still trying to figure out how to get some money. So they figured out that he can donate blood, and because his blood is not been modified, in this timeline you get extra money. And she's like, well, I don't know if I can pay you enough because your blood is so pure, kind of thing. So he ends up giving blood, and they end up going back to this chair, and then he finds out that it's not a church, it's like this pornographic type of thing going on. And he's like, wait a second, I was not signed for this. And he's like, oh, you didn't want this? Well, you don't have, you can't have your money back. And he's like, all right, I'm leaving. So then he goes and meets up with this girl, and he takes her out to eat, and they start talking, and then he ends up getting shot by this robot that told him to not mess around. And then they come across this like robotic looking guy that looks like the Black Barn. He's got the red eyes and like the mouth and teeth, and he gets shot in the eye, and the thing's trying to take him over, but somebody takes him out. And then there's a bunch of people that look like the Black Barn creature thing. So there's all this stuff going on, and he's trying to save her, and then he ends up saving her. But then they fall into another timeline that we've seen in book 1. So then it ends there, and then issue 24 goes into where they're out in the middle of nowhere, but they're seeing like this building from like the futuristic side. So then they start fighting all these creatures that look like a Black Barn. And you kill them, all these cockroaches come out of them. So then we have this standoff with all these cowboys that have been taken over. So they have a big fight, and they end up escaping, and they find these kids, and they're trying to save them. They're saying, you need to stay here, I'll help you, your mom's not going to be coming back, kind of thing. But then you see her kind of falling through different like timelines for Gideon Falls. And then she ends up saving the kids from these creatures that are trying to attack them and take them over. And then someone comes up, and she's like, I'm gonna shoot if you have any cockroaches that come out of you. And he's like, no, it's just me. And she's like, oh, Dad. So then issue 25, this crazy looking trippy 2-page spread of the different parallels, and it's kind of like the different Gideon Falls, and then the center of everything. Really cool artwork. Love the 2-page spreads. We go back to talking to the bishop again, and he's trying to help them, and these creatures are trying to take him over, and then the creatures end up attacking the police kind of people, and they end up taking over the bishop, and he's telling her what to do and instructions on where she needs to go and what place before he's fully taken over. He said, you got to run and leave. So she ends up leaving there, and she ends up running into somebody who knows the bishop, and then they're working on that machine again that we've seen earlier. Issue 26, then she's talking to this guy, and they're talking about what's going on, and then we go back to her talking to her dad, and they're like in like cowboy time, while the pastor is in this like architectural like type time, like I don't know what you would call it. And there's still those creatures there, and then her and her dad are talking, and he's saying, I wish I would have believed you, and he's like, it's okay. And he's like, she's like, yeah, but we waste all this time me not believing you. And then there's someone coming for them, and the pastor and the bishop has been taken over, and he's trying to fight him, and he's attacking him inside the church. And then we go back to them, and they're trying to escape these things still. All that's going on is kind of like two timelines interacting with each other. And it's because they blew up the Black Barn in one timeline, but now here's this guy on the throne of all these dead bodies. So issue 27. And then just like what happened with all how the timelines were broken by the one Black Barn, but then the others are still there, and it's messing up things in a way. And then he sees the black barn again. He just can't escape it, and he ends up running and he runs into this tribe of people that we saw earlier. And then they're talking about the machine and how it's almost done and ready to do what it needs to do. And then I'm talking to these kids that they ran into. And then there's these creatures outside trying to get them. The tribe people are like, hey, we almost got that black barn thing done. And he's like, you shouldn't do this. Why are you doing it? Because he thinks if you destroy it, it stops all this stuff. And then you just see all the different timelines from all different times and what's going on there. Now here's this guy with all these people that have been taken over and saying, we're gonna come get you, kind of thing. And there's this machine again. So while they're trying to find all these things, they're trying to decide what to do with the machine. This guy is taking Danny and talking to him. They're having a big like fight down right now. So then they're walking through the woods together. And they're trying to decide what to do, and they ended up going underwater, and then they go into this other side from going underwater, because you can see like the whales upside down. So it's like a parallel world going on. They have a big old fight down there, and then there's that creature again. Then they're able to escape after they did what they need to do. Then they come up, but then there's this big monster right there. And then all the different timelines and how this thing's taking over everything and just completely messing everything up. And then he's like, with the black barn. And then he says, I'll take care of it. And they're like, no, we're going to take care of this thing together. But this creature is like, no, there is no all of you. It's just you that I want. And then there's all the sadness and remorse for all these things that have happened. This is really cool. It's like a throwback to like MC Escher like style, with all the different stairs and all the different things that have happened and different things going on. And then Danny runs into this machine again, but now there's this guy, and he's like, no, this is gonna stop here. Like, we're destroying this thing before this even happens. So then he has a fight with that guy, and then they decide to crash the machine, so they're crashing it. And then once that happens, then everything goes to just white. And then there's Danny again. And this is like what's happened after that, when they're talking like nothing's happened and they're just kind of like living life and everything's good. And then he starts having these feelings again, like something's around. Sure enough, he finds a piece of the black barn again. And then it says the end, and just has the mouth. Then that's it. And these are different covers, which are really cool to look at. Just alternate cover art, really neat. This one's really cool. And this one reminds me of what's that? Venom 3 homage. Really cool. And there's a Jeff Lemire, and then the black barn. And that's it. Alright, so there it is. Gideon Falls Book 2. So my takeaway from Book 2 has to be that I really enjoyed the story and how we're starting to kind of more of what the black barn is and what's going on and how it takes over people and how it's actually not done, because still in this one we thought that it was done after they destroyed the machine, but come to find out it's still around. So I'm curious to see what happens there. If there is a book 3, I don't know if there is. And it would be a great show. It has that horror, sci-fi kind of, I don't know, just a different type of storyline than you usually see with like the creature and how it takes over people, and like it's just crazy. And I highly recommend you pick this up and you give it a read. I love the hardcovers because they're just really easy to read. You don't have to worry about messing up the comics in case you want to have them graded or you like to do. So I highly recommend this book, and until next time, peace.